Hi, I'm Nathan and welcome to Ninja Monkey. I'm currently focusing on what's going on behind Japan's closed borders. I put all the readily available information into one place to do all the research so that you don't have to. And if you're a potential tourist, student, or simply interested in visiting for business, you've come to the right place. Hopefully, my updates will help you make informed decisions leading to answering the question, when will Japan's border open? In this video, we will continue to look at the situation in Tokyo and nationwide. I will update you on the vaccine drive and we will look at how the government might initially bring about domestic tourism and hope for reopening of international travel. Even though there are some negative stories, I try my best to give them a positive spin. I'd love to know if you agree with me on my thoughts throughout the video. I also dive into what's happening in Singapore and the UK, as we might be able to learn from the experiences of others and see if Japan will follow a similar path. So let's have a look at the situation in Tokyo and nationwide. As always, I continue to present on screen some important stats for you, including nationwide cases, Tokyo's numbers, and the amount of PCR tests done nationwide. So feel free to pause the video if you want to. All stats are up to the latest government officially available data up to and including the 8th of October. 82 new cases were reported in Tokyo on Saturday. That's 114 less than a week ago, and great to see that the number is now below 100. The average for Tokyo over the past week stands at 129.1, and nationwide the number of reported cases was 777, with Osaka reporting the most cases, 124, followed by Tokyo 82, Kanagawa 81, Hyogo 45, Aichi 43, Saitama 37, Chiba 36, and Fukuoka 31. And the number of deaths reported nationwide was 24. So team, where do things stand? Cases are drastically going down, hospitalizations and deaths too. 24 deaths nationwide is quite a tiny number, yet as we will discover later on in this update, the government seems to continue to walk on the side of caution, but for how much longer is the question. Another important aspect that I continue to look at is the vaccination drive, something that I believe will hopefully lead to the unlocking of Japan, especially once we get nearer to the 70 or 80% mark. As of the latest officially available information from the 8th of October, there have now been a total of 172,127,058 doses administered and includes first and second doses. That's actually 7,268,044 more than my last week's update. Of those doses, 92,174,332 make up people who have only had one dose, and 79,952,726 make up those who have received both jabs and would therefore be considered fully vaccinated. That means that out of the population of around 126 million people, 72.8% have now received one of the doses of the vaccine and 63.1% have received both doses of the vaccine. And regarding the elderly, which are usually considered the most vulnerable group of people and make up people 65 years of age and older, 89.6% of those wishing to take up the vaccine are now inoculated with both doses too. Each week, we're adding around 3% to the fully vaccinated tally, which means that Japan should be reaching around 70% vaccination rates in about 2 weeks' time and over 80% towards the end of November. I try not to speculate too much, but looking at other countries, the 70% vaccination mark is usually a significant one that has led to restrictions being eased. Team, how is the vaccination rate in your country? Has it already been reached or passed the 70% mark? And did things change? If so, how? I'd love to know in the comment section, as I do believe that although it's evident that the Japanese government has its own way of doing things, I would hope that they are looking outside to help build a plan. Perhaps 70 or 80% vaccination rate will help things move in the direction that we are all hoping for. Japan's new tourism minister Saito said on Tuesday that he will consider when to resume the government's go-to travel program for the promotion of domestic tourism now that the state of emergency has been fully lifted. And although there is no mention of international tourism returning, Saito said that he has been instructed by the new Prime Minister Kishida to help the battered tourism sector while maintaining anti-virus measures. Last year, the Go-To Travel campaign would subsidize up to half of travelers' expenses, but the program was suspended due to a wave in COVID infections. The overall discounts was capped at 20,000 yen per person per night and 10,000 yen for day trips. Some have been critical of the program, saying that it might have led to the spread of the virus across the nation. And in regards to the Go-To Travel program, Saito said, "We will consider the situation regarding novel coronavirus infections and consider when to resume the program. It is a program crucial for the recovery of tourist sites and local economies." Team, it was always known that domestic tourism needed to return to Japan before any other form of international tourism. However, the Japanese government continues to aim for attracting 60 million annual foreign visitors to Japan Japan by 2030. Tourism is an important aspect which cannot be ignored, and I do believe that these early steps dealing with domestic tourism is crucial for it to go well and create confidence for when foreigners can finally enter the country. However, what is of concern is that according to Kozuki, who is Japan's ambassador to Russia, in an interview with TASS, which is one of Russia's largest news agencies, he said that it is difficult to say when Japan will lift restrictions for foreigners, and that although infection rates are decreasing in Japan, the strict border control will remain in place. According to the Japanese diplomat, tourism has big potential despite the impact of the pandemic. The number of coronavirus cases in Japan is gradually going down, and the emergency situation regime was lifted in the country on September 30th, he noted. But we must continue to be cautious, so strict border measures are still in place in Japan. According to Kozuki, it is difficult to say when Japan will lift restrictions for foreigners, but I hope that the day when people of both countries can freely visit each other will come soon, he said. Team, as you know, I try to be as clear and report all stories, sometimes even things that we might not want to hear. What is not clear here is whether he is referring to travel between Russia and Japan or travel for all countries. Anyway, we must keep positive, remembering that cases are dropping, vaccination rates are on the up, and that there have been constant hints as to the importance of reopening the border. As I have mentioned many times, I do think that we will soon reach a point where the case numbers and vaccination rates reach a sweet point. The fact that domestic tourism might be pushed should not be seen as a negative, but rather a good first step towards reopening. And as mentioned earlier on, I do think that it is also important to see how the rest of the world is dealing with things. In Singapore, the Prime Minister wants to push on with a strategy of living with the virus and not living in fear. Prime Minister Lee said in a televised address that Singapore can't stay locked down and closed off indefinitely, but at the same time there will be quite many COVID-19 cases for some time to come, adding, "We need to update our mindsets. We should respect COVID-19, but we must not be paralyzed by fear," he said on Saturday. "Let us go about our daily activities as normally as possible, taking necessary precautions." Although Singapore has been a poster child for the way that they have dealt with the situation, they now face the harsh reality that is going from a zero mindset to living with the virus, something that might prove harder than expected. However, it is also important to note that Singapore announced that it will continue its plans to reopen the border despite a record outbreak, saying that it will allow vaccinated travelers from various countries including the US, UK, Canada, Denmark, France, Italy, Spain and the Netherlands to travel to Singapore to start from the 19th of October and from South Korea as from November the 15th. Additionally, the number of COVID-19 tests will be cut from 4 to 2, helping to reduce the cost and inconvenience according to the authorities. And also looking at the UK, which seems to have decided to live with the virus, just recently reporting 36,060 infections and 127 deaths in a day, and pretty much opening up its border for travel to the whole world, apart from only 7 countries which will remain in a so-called red list. Those are Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Haiti, Panama, Peru and Venezuela. Initially only accepting the UK-approved vaccines administered in the UK and only a few other countries, this list has now been extended to accept vaccine certification for 68 countries worldwide, and will mean that vaccinated visitors to England will not need to quarantine on arrival and only need to be tested on day 2 and fill out a passenger locator form 48 hours before arrival. What do you think, team? Has England gone too far, or are they doing the right thing, pretty much deciding to open up to normality if you're vaccinated anyway, and making travel into the country quite straightforward compared to traveling elsewhere? Although there are currently just over 100 deaths a day on average linked to COVID in the UK, which may sound scary, this is actually similar to what happens in a bad flu season. The gap between hospitalizations, deaths and cases has widened thanks to the vaccine, and therefore the UK decided to unlock months before other countries. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this, and there isn't really a correct answer, and I certainly am not an expert, but it's always good to discuss in the comment section. And if you don't have much to say, just say hello and where you're from, as I'd love to get to know you too. So, as always, thanks so much for watching this far and staying tuned. It must mean that you're liking the content so far, so please consider liking, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting the bell notification to keep up to date with all future updates. Till next time, stay positive, team. Arigatou gozaimasu. Gracias. Thanks. Bye.